ladies and gentlemen. So, this is May, Stop the Bleed Month. So I'm going to go over some of the very important things that you can do to stop major bleeding if you see it. So, as usual, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help the YouTube algorithm. So we're going to open this. Don't judge me. It's actually a lot harder than it seems. So as you can see, I just opened up a mini IFAK kit, and this is some of the contents which are in the mini IFAK kit that we specialized for our company. And in the kit, it has several contents. It has the Sand Bear Claw Nitrile Large Gloves. This one only has one pair. I do recommend that you have two pairs. Even with two pairs of gloves on you, you can still check for the pulse. You can still do a head-to-toe assessment. Doing a blood sweep is very important. Some people, they refer to the black Nitro Gloves, the tactical. With black gloves though, you're not able to see the blood as well as with either the bear claw one or sometimes with the medical blue gloves that you see. I do recommend you using the Nitro gloves and not the latex gloves. Next on our list is the combat application tourniquet, which you see here before you. And we'll go further into how to use a tourniquet and stuff like that. I would recommend that you get a tourniquet through a reputable company like the North American Rescue. Some stuff out there on Amazon, you definitely don't want to get. The last thing you want to do is be putting on a tourniquet and then the windlass breaks, and then if the person's not already into shock, they probably will go into shock after that. We have the wound packing, which is next. And this is the gauze that you would pack inside the body, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. You have the HyFin vent, which is used for chest seals and stuff like that. They usually do come, actually they always come in pairs. So if you only have one, you should always have two. Just in case there's a through and through on the chest, which I'll talk about what that is later on. And this is what it looks like again. We also have the NAR emergency dressing. This is very good and it's very versatile. You can use it for a lot of applications, and I highly recommend this. And then you have the trauma shears. Usually look like an L-shaped, as you can see the North American Rescue logo. And this can actually cut through most of the clothing. It can cut through different types of metals, silver, copper, and I wouldn't know if it cuts through gold because I'm too poor for that. So if you guys know, then you can comment below if it does apparently cut through gold or not. I don't recommend regular scissors. A trauma scissors are a little bit different than the regular scissors because it is able to cut through quite a bit of stuff. Like for instance, the duty belt that I had on before, the drop leg holster, it's able to cut through, and a wide variety of other things. So I do recommend what we call trauma shears. So we'll start off actually with the Nitro Gloves. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to actually put it on. In real life, you'll actually do it a lot faster, but since I'm trying to make a video, I'll go a little bit slower. And I'm going to show you what to do real quick afterwards in terms of taking off the gloves. So as I said before, I would have 2 layers of gloves on instead of just one. When you're doing the head-to-toe assessment or when you're doing the blood sweep, sometimes, you know, if there's an open fracture or if the bullet fragment has hit a bone and then the bone splinters. It can cause a wide variety of problems. Most people, when you're doing a head-to-toe assessment or even a blood sweep, they have knives, they have ear studs, they have a lot of metal or pointed objects that we don't even realize. And so that's why I do wear 2 layers of gloves. So anyway, here's the glove. This is a little bit bigger than what I usually wear. I usually wear a medium. And I'm going to show you how to take off the gloves. If you're afraid to take off the gloves, wait until EMS arrives, so that way they can take it off for you. And then remember to wash your hands for about 30 seconds. And say the ABC song, the Happy Birthday song, the Mal Little Red Book song, either or. So you pinch at the palm, and then you take it off. When you're taking it off, don't just randomly take it off. You want to spray downward if possible, and then you want to do it a little bit at a time, so that way the blood splatter doesn't go everywhere. So once again, I pinched at the palm, and then I slowly took it off, and then I'm putting it in the other hand. And then I'm going to take 2 fingers, and there's a crevice right here. So I'm going to stick the 2 fingers a little bit in between the crevice, and then I'm going to turn it around like so. And then it becomes inside and out. And that's how you would utilize the gloves. Put it on, and then take it off. So this is the combat application tourniquet, also known as the CAT tourniquet. Highly recommended. There's a bunch of other tourniquets that are out there. The soft T, I think there's one called Rats. And today we won't talk about improvised tourniquets, but if you are at a workplace, you can use ties and stuff like that as a tourniquet, and maybe we'll make another video later on about improvised techniques and stuff like that. But using improvised techniques does diminish in terms of actually using combat application tourniquets. So if you can get this, I highly recommend that you do. So with the use of a tourniquet, the setup is absolutely crucial. So if you haven't already set up a tourniquet, I'm going to show you how to do that. So if you receive a tourniquet, and then once again it's stamped with the combat application, what you want to do is you want to undo it from the butt buckle that I just had, and then usually I take my thumb and then I push it down so that way it becomes straight like this. Then I'm going to put it through the first loop right here, through the first buckle, and then I'm going to go, what I usually go is about 6 inches down. And then I'm going to point the red up top. And then after I point the red at top, I'm going to just fold it. So I just set up the tourniquet. So I'm going to show you that one more time because it is absolutely critical. Once again, I have the whole tourniquet undone. I'm going to take my thumb opposite of the Velcro and rub it down just to check, make sure nothing's wrong with it. And then I'm going to put it through the first buckle. I swear I know what I'm doing. And I'm going to put it down 6 inches. And then I'm going to take the red tab, put it up to the sky, and then cinch it down like this, so. And then I'm going to fold it in half. And so my tourniquet is, up to a certain extent, set up. If you have a tourniquet with a time tab like this, what you want to do is open it up. And what some people call bunny ears, some people call it opening up the flap, whatever you want to call it. But make sure that it is not all the way on. That is, it is like so. And then depending on the environment, depending on the job that you're at and stuff like that, you might want to even cinch down the windlass, which this is what's called, or the rod. So instead of having it open like this, you just click it in like this. And so now the tourniquet is set. The tourniquet setting is, as I said before, very vital and critical because, for instance, our TAC Med and our TCCC class, when we do it, people take about 13 to 15 extra seconds, either trying to get the tourniquet in the right place or the maneuverability of the tourniquet into the right place so that way they're able to cinch it down and then use the windlass. With this setup, it's going to be very quick and it's going to be very fluid. And remember, seconds literally does count. For a femoral artery, which the artery runs along the leg, and then you have your brachial artery, which runs along the bone, or not along the bone, well, I guess it does, the artery does run along the bone, but along the arm. And so you only have about 3 to 5 minutes before a person bleeds out. So when we say that, especially a lot of civilians, they are like, oh, 3 to 5 minutes, you know, that's a lot of time. 3 to 5 minutes before they bleed out. So you take about half that time is what you actually have. So let me just be clear again, 3 to 5 minutes until you bleed out. So you take half that time is when they go across from the point of no return, and sadly it's too late. So you really in real life have about maybe a minute to 2.5 minutes to either put on a tourniquet, put in the wound packing, whatever you need to do to stop that bleeding. So once you have this set up, I'm going to demonstrate it, which is part of why I don't instruct certain classes, because I can easily do it rather than instruct it, but I'm going over some of the stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to place it. So I'm not placing it like this. I'm placing it through the first loop that's closest to me, and then my thumb is going to be on the red tab, and it's going to remain on the red tab throughout the whole motion that I'm going to show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flick it open, and it doesn't have to be all the way open. I'm going to just flick it as much as possible open. As you see, my thumb is still on the red tab. I'm going to slide it up on the arm. Either arm is fine depending on what arm is injured. I'm going to take my index finger. As you see, my thumb is still on the red tab. I'm going to take my index finger. I'm going to push. And then I'm going to wrap around. So once I have it like this, and I'm going to re-demonstrate that again because I know that was a little bit fast. Once I have it like this, I'm going to undo the windlass. I'm going to turn. And in real life, I would have turned until the bleeding has stopped. Not when they're complaining really bad. Most of the time, they'll actually complain more about the tourniquet than the actual injury itself, depending on the injury. And I'll keep turning it until the bleeding stops. If they start complaining a lot, keep turning it. Keep cranking it until the bleeding stops. If they become unconscious, keep turning it until the bleeding stops. And then so it might take 2. The max I've ever seen is 3, depending on how tight you initially tie the Velcro. If the person is not experienced and hasn't tightened the Velcro quite a bit, then you might have to twist some more. And then from there, depending if I need to move the person or extract the person from a vehicle or from a danger zone, or if their threat is still around and things like that, I'm going to make a quarter turn and I'm going to slide it in and then go around. And then I'm going to take that strap and I'm going to set it over. So in real life, I would never write the time on this actual tab. What I would do is write it on the forehead or write it on the opposite extremity of the arm. And apparently I tied this too tight and my arm is starting to complain. So I'm going to show you that motion one more time. When you do set up your tourniquet, just make sure to set it up maybe once, maybe twice, but don't actually try it out. Tourniquets have a one-time use, unless you're poor like me and you have to reuse and recycle, so that was a joke. Please don't do that. That was a joke. So once again, I'm going to set up the tourniquet. Put it in through the first loop or belt buckle, and then put it up 6 inches. Have the red facing up toward the sky. Fold it, or make it in half like this, and then I'm going to fold it in half. Again, so it's like so. Once again, I'll take that time tab if it's like this, and I'll put it in like that. And then so my tourniquet is set up, and I can have it on my vest, I can have it on my duty belt. Some people, they even carry it down on their ankle now, I see. Wherever you have it, you need to be able to pull it out and draw it out real fast. So once again, I'm going to have my thumb on the red tab, And then when I grab it, I'm not grabbing it like this through this loop, I'm grabbing it like this. So that way this area remains open. I take my thumb, put it on the red tab, I flick it open. If it doesn't fully open, then that is not a problem. Don't try to keep flicking it open. Remember, seconds counts. So flip it open, put it on your arm. See the thumb is still on the red tab. Take my index finger, pull, wrap around. And then once again with the rodless, I will spin it, clip it in. And then depending if I need to extract the body out or not, I will make that quarter turn right into here on the opposite side of the windlass. See if I can move it a little bit. So when you're using a tourniquet, you need to use the tourniquet on the extremities. So the arms or the legs. Please do not try using the tourniquet on the neck unless you really hate the person. That was a joke. Please don't actually do that. So once again, on the extremities, on the arms and the legs only is where you would use the tourniquet. So now I'm going to talk about wound packing. So we've initially applied maybe the tourniquet and then the area is still exposed and we're trying to do something a little bit different with it, or you're at a junction. So some people, they use the wound packing at the junction, which is, you know, at the torsos, near the shoulder blades and stuff like that. And then once again, this is the wound packing. It has that little blue line, so that way when they finally go into trauma 1, trauma 2 center and stuff like that, the hospital has to extract all this stuff out. And so when they go through the x-ray, they can actually see where the gauze is, so that way they can get it out. So this is the gauze. It's like in a what we call a Z-fold mechanism, because hence it makes a Z. So we have this wound. We know that this is the entry wound because it's a clean cut. And then we have an exit wound where the fragments have splintered off and stuff like that. And a through and through is sort of bad, but what we're really worried about is when it hits the bone and then the bone fragments have splintered off, and then that's when it really does cause a considerable amount of damage. Also, depending on the fragment of the bullet, the disbursement of the pressure, and also some fragments end up tumbling, or the bullet itself ends up tumbling. But that's an advanced class. We don't really talk about that here. Just be mindful. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to just start sticking it in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it around my finger, and then I'm going to push it in as far as I can. So I'm pushing my whole finger in, and I'm trying to hit to where that bone is. And if you've used these kinds of simulation stuff before, you can actually feel the bone sticking in of somebody who pissed me off. So no, I'm just joking. It's just a metal rod. And so I'm pushing it in, and then you want to make sure that you keep pressure. So I'm going to keep pressure here, and I'm going to keep digging it in, and I'm putting in a little bit at a time. And you see I'm still providing pressure at the same time. So there's always constant pressure, and I'm pushing it in as far as possible. Depending on the pressure distribution and how the fragment went in, I might actually have to go on the inside like this to actually fill up the cavity. You want to fill up the whole cavity so that way the blood is able to coagulate with the chemical that's on it. And so we just keep sticking it in. Make sure that you keep constant pressure, and once again you're pushing it in and you're trying to fill in the whole cavity. Even with my finger, if I was to try to push my whole finger in, it would only go about halfway down into the body, which is about right. And that's how you would pack a wound. Most of the time you can fit the whole Zevo or the whole wound packing into one section. And then, depending on where it is, you would move the person to the recovery position, or if possible, which I don't recommend, maybe you'll lift the leg a little bit. And so if it's a through and through where a bullet enters and then it exits, so this would be the exit wound actually, then we would pack in the other hole that we didn't pack initially. and that's how you would do the wound packing. I do want to comment on some of the stuff that I've seen out on the field too, which I find very, very wrong. Some people, they leave it out on the ground and then they do what I call the spider technique, and they're just pushing it in, taking a little bit and pushing it in. You've just contaminated the gauze. Some people, they put it on their shoulder and they undo the whole thing and then they put it on their shoulder. If it falls down, you've just contaminated the gauze. This is going into somebody's body. It's very important that you try to keep it as sterile as possible. Because one thing of bacteria can multiply within hours to millions. So now I'm going to talk to you about the North American Rescue Emergency Trauma Dressing. So you see it sort of velcros on each other, so that's how you would open it. And then you would open it like this. So I would have packed the wound in by now with the combat or the wound packing. So once this is packed, then I would want to totally seal it off. I would put it on the injured site. And then we would want to start wrapping. So we want to wrap as tightly as possible. So initially with this, what I would do is I would actually wrap below it to seal off the bottom part. And then I'm going to wrap on top of it. So I'm fully sealing it off from any elements trying to come through like this way. And then once I seal it off like that, depending on where the injury site is, I actually maybe want to twist at the injury site if I can, and then push it down even further. And then when I latch it, I want to make sure that I latch it through this one and this one, but not the bottom one, because once I've opened this up, then bacteria and other debris and stuff can actually get in. And these latches, I don't know if you can see from there, has claws on it. So when you really latch it in, actually I'll do it. You take a little bit here, you stick it in, and then you take a little bit there, and then you stick it in, like so. And then this is the emergency trauma dressing. So the last thing I want to go over is the HyFin vent. So this is what it looks like. You have a piece of gauze. And then so we would take this off, and it's very, very sticky, like so. And I actually won't try to stick it on right now, but you get the idea. So this is usually in a chest cavity space and like that, where it's punctured through, and the chest or the lungs is almost like a vacuum. So once you have a hole, you need to plug in or seal up that hole, so that way the actual lung system is able to work. So if you see any types of bubbles around the chest area, that's a immediately red flag, and that usually means that it's a sucking chest wound. So most of the time, also, people ask us, oh, there must be a lot of bleeding coming out of the chest, and that's usually inaccurate. Sometimes it's just you see some white froth or something like that, or sometimes it's just clear liquid oozing out, and then just a little bit of blood, because there's no really blood vessels around there and things like that. So just because you don't see a lot of bleeding, but if you see those bubbles, either it's clear bubbles or red bubbles, that's an immediate red flag. So we would wait for the person to exhale And then while the person is exhaling, we'll take the gauze, we'll wipe it down, we'll open this up as I showed you before, and then we'll place it on the wound. And we want to use the HyFin because I don't know if you can see from there, it has like a tripod where the fluid can actually leak and stuff like that. So instead of the person sort of trying to breathe from the hole in the lungs, they can actually breathe through the mouth, which is a lot more beneficial. So this quick mechanism will literally save their life. Remember to like and subscribe to our videos so that way you can learn about more medical knowledge. And if you are interested in learning about improvised techniques, please comment on the improvised techniques that you want to know about below, and we may make a video about it.